to the live stream. My name is Ramon and we're going to be talking about a few things today. Hi, Nick. How's it going? We're gonna talk about Nick and his amazing YouTube channel in a minute. So, hey, Harold from Toronto. It's great to see you. I love Canada. There's one place I want to do some concerts one day. I've heard it's like amazing. Well, we were discussing this last Sunday, how there's some great artists from Canada, you know. So yeah. So and Nick, actually, we're going to do our interview. I promise we're going to get it right this time. I'm going to try and work out a way of sorting this camera thing out. You know, but yeah, thanks for joining, Nick. That'd be fantastic. Hi, Cloud. How's it going? You're from Illinois. Wow. Ariel Posen and Joey Landreth. Yes, of course. Yeah, those guys are from. They're from Canada, aren't they? Yeah, I keep forgetting. I always think they're like American, but they're not. They're Canadian. That's right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. It's quite interesting. I've actually been playing this Telecasters the last week, and so I'm just really into. This kind of funny thing is that I read somewhere, I can't remember who said it. A famous guitar player said, you know, when you're old and in your rocking chair out on the veranda, you know, the only guitar you're going to want to play is a Telecaster because it's just so light, simple. You know, there's nothing complicated about it. It's just a slab of wood, you know. And the thing about the Telecasters is that, you know, they're great for the, you know, Abbott King, you know, all that sort of Abbott King stuff, Roy Buchanan. But as well, they're just brilliant for jazz as well, you know. You can get a great jazz tone, just sort of, just roll down this, and then you're on the neck pickup, you know. Just got a great jazz tone, you know. On the old, you know, great jazz guitars, you know. And I was thinking of, because I always have an archtop, I always have a jazz archtop guitar, and my last one was an old Yamaha from the 70s. Beautiful guitar, but it was huge. It was just, you know, and you're kind of like this playing with an archtop. And the tellies, you know, they can do the jazz thing, they can do the blues thing, the rock, you know, rock and roll, you know, everything. It's in country, obviously, you know, the old country. They got all that country sort of picking, so you know, just very versatile. Even dare I say it, if I was in tune, you know, it's really nice. It's just got a nice vibe about them. That's what I love about Telecasters. You know, they're just kind of easy, great instruments. Right, okay, so here we go. Did you remember the coffee? Right, well, this is not coffee chat. This is tea time. And one of my guitar students, very kindly bought me a mug with a G for Goose. So thank you to my student. And I've actually ordered a Guitar Show coffee cup. So the next coffee chat you're going to see me with a proper official Guitar Show cup. Hugh, how's it going, Hugh from Glasgow? Man, Glasgow is one of the greatest cities on earth. It's a fantastic place, great football team. Yeah, or two football teams, I guess. So yeah, amazing place. Thank you, Tom, for great to see you. Harold Harris says, great slide players. I've got my 75 thin line I bought in 1976. So is that a 75 thin line? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I tell you what, right here, I am a big fan of thin lines. So this is actually quite an interesting guitar. This is actually my official jazz guitar because it's obviously hollow, well, semi-hollow. And I put flat wound strings, but Jimmy Vaughan, it's called like the kind of Jimmy Vaughan setup. And Jimmy Vaughan, the late Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, he came up with this thing where the E, A, and D are flat wounds, and then the G, B, and E are normal strings from a roundabout set, but they'd be just unwound, I guess you call them. So you can do all your bending, but you've got these great flat wounds, which give you this kind of. So you've got this kind of really cool sort of. Don't know if you can hear that, guys. It's kind of like a double bass sort of sound. So I've got a gold foil in here as well. This is a rewound gold foil from 60s Gaia tone guitar, but it's just got this great. And for some reason, I don't know why, these seem to be out of phase with this pickup. So together, you've got this crazy sound, which is out of phase, I guess. Whoop. That's a great chord. This is, don't know if you know this chord, guys. It's like a C, but with a fifth on the root. And then sort of George Harrison trick, this is my favourite trick. C sharp minor 7 flat 5. Drop one finger to here. And you got a C major 7. I was toying around with some chords. So that's a C with a G on the bass. E minor 9. C sharp minor 7 flat 5 to C, kind of George Harrison. He does some great stuff. One of my other favourite things George Harrison does is where he gets a G major 7 chord and then plays a G diminished 7. You could do it with a G, you can put it up in minor third. So that's, I think George Harrison, great player. So, modded. Yeah, this is modded. Yeah. How thick are the necks? Well, it's kind of thickish. It's not thin. It's a full 42 millimeter, so the nut's quite wideish. Wideish. Yeah, is that word? And but he doesn't have the skunk stripe because it's based on a 69 model. And this is actually Carina, very very lightweight Carina wood, great sound. Yeah, we had to do a little bit of routing just to get that, to make it. I did once do this myself. And it was a complete disaster. I messed up the instrument completely. So I've never done it. I take it. I've got here in London. If you're in London, I go to the Bass Gallery. It's the only guitar shop I go to. It's called the Bass Gallery, and they can do all this work for me. But I did once get a chisel, start hacking away at it myself, thinking I could do it, and I just made a complete mess. So I've never done it again. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice having the gold foil with the combination with the flat wound strings and this gold foil. You've got a really kind of cool sound. So that, for example, if anybody's heard of Blake Mills, we talked about him last week on the stream, but this is a little thing I learnt off him. Yeah, it's kind of like an E to an A to a G. that sort of style with these flat ones is really, really sort of nice, you know. So Hugh says, my Ashbody Manson telly is a boat anchor, too heavy, so I'm going to sell it. So when you say Ashbody Manson, is it made by Manson or is it a Fender? Is that right? Yeah. Is it a Fender? Did Fender do a Manson model? Tom says, always wanted to get thin line telly, but I got to get my American Strat first, of course. Yeah, well, you know what I was saying at the beginning of this video, you know, we're all going to end up with a Telecaster, you know, however stratified, you know, however we love Strats. I think, you know, when you're at home, the Telecaster, it's the most, especially this one, it's the most primeval, it's the most simple. It's a slab of wood with strings on it, you know. And when Leo Fender designed it, I guess he designed it off the lap stills, and he just made something simple that he could manufacture really quickly. But ultimately, it's kind of like the best design. If you get a nice lightweight one, it's you know, you can play it in the bed when you're on the toilet, eating your breakfast, eating your cornflakes. It's just an easy guitar to have around the place, the house, you know. Whereas the Strats are kind of a little bit more involved because you've got the tremolo arm wangling around, and you know, there's more going on. It's more complicated, you know. Whereas a telly is just a simple thing, you know. Oh, Hugh Manson, yeah, Luthier from England, yeah, he did some great jazz guitars as well, I think, you know. Are you using chicken claw technique on your right hand? Okay, I use a few different techniques on my right hand. First of all, the way I got into playing with my hands on guitar, there's two kind of people I've got to thank. One's famous, one's not. One person is called Mark Knopfler, and I listened to an album called Neck and Neck. What the story was, when I was 19, my first professional band. So I started playing guitar at 17. That's when my grandmother bought me a guitar, which was essentially this telly, this guitar here with a white scratch plate. When I was 17, at 19 I got my first professional gig, which was playing in a country and western band. You know, I had to wear the frilly shirt and cowboy hat. But I didn't wear the cowboy hat because that was just, you know, bear in mind Oasis were in the charts and I was playing, you know, 19-year-old playing country western, old-fashioned country western music. But anyway, my friend said, you've got 2 weeks to learn 200 songs and then you're going to go out on the road in England and Europe, whatever. So I bought an album called Neck and Neck, which was Mark Knopfler and Chet Atkins. And I just sat and listened to Mark Knopfler play guitar, and he basically did this. He had a thumb and kind of two fingers. And I've done actually a lesson. If you go back 3-4 videos, I've done a lesson on this. So I kind of had this thing going. So I kind of learned that sort of technique of, you know, and that's with the thumb and the fingers. So you're just kind of playing chicken picking, that sort of stuff. And that really helped, especially other songs where you're doing Travis picking. No. If you can see this, probably better. So that was kind of like, you know, Mark Knopfler Neck and Neck album. That's how I learnt to do this Travis picking, and because Travis picking is actually, it's, say for example you're playing an A chord, you're going A, D, E, D. Whereas I was also learning blues at the same time, and blues is kind of like. Got a kind-hearted woman, you do anything well for me. with blues, you're kind of tending to stay on that one string, you know, that kind of E, that E, and you're kind of. So it's really good. I'll give you one thing, guys. This is one of my favourite things to practice. It's just literally ride that E like that. Just go like that. Then try and play your blues licks. Oh, I messed up there, but so a guy called Tim Pales, who's actually from Canada, is a colleague of mine. He's my boss I teach in a little college on a Saturday, and he's my boss, Tim Pales, and he taught me classical technique. He gave me a few lessons, but it was enough for me to. Sorry, I was just falling out of the guitar. That was very good. Ugh. So you know, if you're doing classical technique, you know, you because I used to do that with my thumb. My thumb can actually go right back. I don't know if that's a bit weird, but so for when I'm playing the Mark Knopfler style, it's sort of it's kind of going right back, and I'm putting my hand on the guitar. With classical technique, you're kind of, if you see this way, instead of going like that, which is the Mark Knopfler sort of blues technique, you bring your hand out. So you can. No, that's more the classical technique, is where you're doing that. So now I try and do a combination of both, especially if you're playing jazz. That's where you want to be more classical, sort of, your technique wants to be better. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing now, is combining the classical technique with this technique, you know, and just trying to get it all. Sometimes I mess up. I mean, I would suggest to everyone learn one or two classical pieces. You know, just have two. You don't have to learn them like from beginning to end. Because normally with a classical song you'll have 4 movements, and then it repeats. So it's not that hard to learn. But classical really just get your right hand working really beautifully. And then you combine it with your blues and country picking, and then your right hand's really sort of, you know, rather than just using a plectrum all the time. So that's one thing that I would definitely recommend. And my colleague Tim Pales, he's just kind of like gave me some lessons and told me how to move instead of keeping I used to literally play like that, you know, really awkward. And now he's saying, no, bring your hand over this way. So, you know, I sometimes go back to the sort of, you know, more sort of claw hammer, I guess you'd call it. But sometimes I bring my hand out and try and do it properly, like Segovia or Francisco Terrega, or, you know, one of the great Spanish classical players, you know. Right, so let me answer some questions. Harold says, Blake Mills, yes. Have you heard of Mason Stoops? I have actually heard of Mason Stoops. Yeah, I have. Yeah, all these guys take a page from Rye Closer, who took a page from Chet Atkins. Yeah, I mean, Mason Stoops is definitely a clone of Blake Mills, you know. Mason Stoops, if you don't know, he's a young player. There's lots of these great young players. I've got a friend from Essex called Owen Barry who plays for Tower Wilkenfield. Killer guitar player, red hot picker. He's a little bit younger than me, but he's red hot player, and he's out in LA, part of the session scene. And Mason Stoops, he's another young gun, and he's using lots of effects, you know, and he's pretty good, you know. He can do some jazz, blues. He's pretty great player, but I definitely think he's influenced by Blake Mills. But he's got his own voice, his own thing, you know. But so Blake Mills was the guy who first used these pickups, you know. And Blind Willie McTell, Hugh. Yeah, he's Blind Willie. Hugh is asking me about Blind Willie McTell, and he famously wrote Statesboro Blues, which the Allman Brothers made famous. But yeah, I used to have a record of his, and I think he played 12-string guitar, if I'm right, you know. So I love all the old Delta blues, you know, country blues players, you know. And that's another thing, if you want to get your right hand going, you know, like Blind Boy Fuller. I don't know if I can play this because I haven't played this for like 15 years, but So it's that kind of. It's a really weird sort of ragtimey sort of thing. My favourite guy for that is Blind Blake. He's my favourite sort of Delta ragtime player, you know. Yeah, let's have a look here. I actually bought a 15-year-old standard Telecaster last month for £500. It was a lovely guitar. Does that mean, oh, you almost bought it, Tom? Okay. Yeah, I mean, Telecasters, like I said, that's what I play at home. You know, when I'm at home, I play a telly. Even when I had the archtop guitar, I still played the telly because you can move around the house. You can make a cup of tea. You can go and answer some emails and go into your room, lie down. You know, you got your telly. It's just whereas an SG, for example, SGs are nice, but if this guitar fell, it's going to break in half. You know, so that's the difference from this, which is basically two planks of wood bolted together. Hi, Bye Guitar. Hi, how are you, Sean? Yeah, good afternoon to you. Fantastic, Sean. Sean's watching from work. You're working on a Sunday. Sunday's it's the day of God. You know, it's the rest day. You know, you shouldn't be working on a Sunday, my friend. I hope they're paying you very handsomely for that. Clyde says, simply brilliant. I believe we are brothers from another mother. Yeah, Clyde, we're definitely brothers. We're all brothers. All of us here are brothers. You know, and maybe some sisters. Who knows? So Hugh Cadwell, great picker and slide player. Yes, Blind Willie McTell was amazing. Yes, he was very, very good. Maurice, hello. Where are you from, Maurice? Your name is either from Quebec or France. I don't know. I hazard a guess there. So yeah, back to Argentina. Okay, ¿cómo estás? Mi padre fue de Argentina. Mucho gusto conocerte. Mi padre fue de la provincia, se llama Córdoba, donde yo pienso que el Che Guevara vive en Córdoba por un poco tiempo, no sé, pero es que dice mi padre. So yeah, anyway, look, back to this, guys. Look. So gold foils on your telly with flat round strings. Try that. You know, it's a really cool sort of combination, and it just gets a brilliant, beautiful sort of sound. You know, a lot of the sort of 50s. I think even who knows, but I think La Bamba. Whether that was Mary Kay playing the riff or Richie Valens. That kind of riff, was that played on flat ones? To me, it sounds that Richie Valens played his harmony guitar with flat one strings on it, you know. And I'm guessing Mary Kay was a jazz guitar player, you know, part of the Wrecking Crew that recorded all the Beach Boys hits and Richie Valens and stuff. So it could well be that, you know, a lot of those guitar parts and you know, in the 50s were recorded on you know, on flat ones, you know, maybe even Chuck Berry, you know. And maybe that was recorded on flat ones, who knows? But it's definitely got a sound. I mean, it's kind of different if you're doing that kind of rhythm. You know, it's different. It's not going to be, you know, you might have to compensate a little bit with your amps and stuff because it's more boomy and bassy with the flat ones. But I love it, especially when you're doing like a slow blues, you know. Yeah, so that sort of jazz blues thing, the flat ones work really nice. Okay, Jay Trem says, I have two harmonies with gold foils, a 1967 Rocket 3 and a 1963 Silhouette H17. Is the H17, is that the Richie Valens model? I can't remember. I did a history, a YouTube history video on Richie Valens and his original guitar, which I think Harmony were reissued. I think Harmony has come back making guitars in some shape or form, and they reissued like a Richie Valens signature, which was green, for a short time, and it was done with the Valens family, the blessing of their family. And the guy, I think the guy who originally had the access to the original guitar, so he kind of measured all the dimensions and they made a reissue. And you can get them, you know, they're pretty available on eBay. So I'm thinking about getting one myself, you know. Ah, you're right, yeah, Richie Valens did play, he played a Stratotone. Yeah, I should have remembered that, I don't know why I didn't. Undercover Steve says, love my 65 Rocket. So, we're talking about 65 Rocket. What is... Can you give us a bit more information? I'm thinking, is that an amplifier, a guitar? What are we talking, 65 Rocket? Harmony. Okay, Harmony 65. Let me just check out what that is, because it does ring a bell. Harmony. Let me see. Oh yeah, sort of a semi-acoustic with gold foils. Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, with those kind of diamond gold foils. Yeah, hollow body. Yeah, very nice. Sean says, I hear the latest Harmony guitars are made in Kalamazoo by Heritage. Oh, that's really interesting. So I will definitely be checking them out if that's so, because you know, Heritage have kind of got a good name, haven't they? You know, I know they were the original guys from Gibson. So yeah, right. So I wanted to do a little bit of talking about tones here, and a few people have been asking me how to get a kind of Rycuda, or you know, without spending too much money, you know, because I spent a lot of money recently to do that last video. The last video on this channel basically cost me about £500 to make, because I had to buy 2 pedals. So with the shipping and I think £450–500 it cost to make that last video, which is pretty crazy. But you don't have to spend that much time, you know, you don't really earn money. And also another thing I wanted to talk about is the a really amazing pedal. My favourite pedal this year has actually been the Carl Martin Headroom. I don't know if you guys have come across that. It's, if I can take it, I'll take it apart in a minute and show you. But it's basically a reverb. It's a spring reverb in a pedal. And I've just been using that, and that's been absolutely fantastic. So some of you guys have been... let me just get this thing. I'm going to be 2 seconds. So some of you have been seeing that I've been using this thing, and this is basically from Victoria Amplifiers, and it basically does a reverb, a spring reverb. And the reverb is from like a 60s blackface design, and then it's got a vibrato. It's like a harmonic trem, I guess you call it. It's a vibrato thing that is from, I think it's from a brownface circuit. So I can't remember his name now. Is it Bob or Brian at Victoria Amplification? But anyway, his wife actually makes these. She sold us them and puts them together. And she does a really amazing job. You know, these things sound incredible. The only problem is they take a while to make, and they're expensive. So I'm guessing about $1,500, $1,800 maybe for these. So these are quite expensive to buy, but they're really great. So if you can afford one of them, get one. But if you can't, then the next best thing is the Carl Martin, in my opinion, is the Carl Martin Headroom. So check out that. It's a really, really great delay. I've got it actually here now. I'm using it now. So I'm going to put the reverb right up. But it's just an amazing, beautiful sort of reverb, especially for that Peter Green sort of. nice. That's the best sort of pedal or piece of gear that I've actually discovered this year, and that pretty much replaces this thing here. So this thing here, which is kind of a little bit too fragile to take out on the road. A lot of the sort of gigs I do, and because I'm not a big artist, I do small gigs. Sometimes I get to play a big festival, but generally I'm playing small places. And so I can't be bothered to take that thing out. So I just take out the Headroom Carl Martin pedal, and then they've also sent me a tremolo. And for me, I think you don't need the harmonic tremolo. You just need a normal trem. So I just like the normal sort of right. I've never found a pedal that does a harmonic thing that the original circuit with the tube does. So I just use the standard tremolo. And then you got your kind of Raikuda, sort of if you want a Raikuda sort of sound. Let me get the Kudacaster. Do we have a slide? No, we don't. We don't have a slide back. So that's sort of my setup. If I'm going to do a sort of flying to Germany next month for a concert, for a festival, and I'll just take a small little tremolo pedal, and if I don't have reverb, I normally get reverb on the amp, but if you don't have reverb, I'll take that Carl Martin Headroom, which has got the springs inside the pedal. So that's really it. You don't need this thing. You don't need it. I think Raikuda just used tremolo off his amplifier, or Demeter. I think, is it Demeter? They made him a tremolo pedal. So that's kind of like, that's sort of my sort of touring rig, would just be a small tremolo pedal, and that's it really. Just use the reverb off the amp, and that's it. So what's my favourite song to play? I'll tell you what, let me just show you. Depends what I'm working on at the time. It could be, let me get that Telecaster. So I have an approach to guitar playing, and I can show you with Mary Kay was the wife of Les Paul. Mary Kay, wasn't that Mary Ford? No, I've got a terrible memory for names, but I seem to remember he was married to Mary Ford, not Mary Kay. But I might be wrong here. I might be wrong. So somebody just asked me what's my favourite song. Well, I don't really have a favourite song, but I have a concept. I play in a certain way, and I'm going to show you how I play. So, I could play any song, and I play the same way, whether I'm playing a really complicated jazz piece, which I probably couldn't play or struggle to play, or a simple blues song. I always play with the same concept. And I can best show you that with a song called Little Wing, which I've actually recorded on the album. And I love Little Wing. I think it's a fantastic song. And there's been some great versions. One of my favourite version is Jimi Hendrix. And then after that, my favourite version is Sting. Sting did a really good version, and he had a guitarist called Hiram Bullock. I used to think his name was Hiram Bollock, but it's not, it's Hiram Bullock. Unfortunately, he passed away, but great fusion 80s guitar player, really good. And he did a great solo on it. And then my third version is the Stevie Ray Vaughan version, which is wonderful, So I kind of do a mix of all those three versions of Little Wing, Thank you, Rocco. Has anyone ever told you that you look like Kev Gal? No, I don't know who Kev Gal is, but Jay Trem, Mary Ford's name was Colleen Summers. No, people have told me I sometimes look like the Australian guy who got done for WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. You know, sometimes I'll be like, I'm gonna pop this bottle. You gone give me, Charlie. Yeah, man. You the man. You the man. Yeah, thank you, thank you. I think you look like Sting. Hey, man. Thank you. He's a great looking guy. I don't think I'm as good looking as him. I tried a harmonic trem called Surfy Trem. Really good. Thank you. Because if anybody knows a harmonic trem that can replace this thing here, so that I don't break it when I go touring, can you tell me, please? Because I don't know any harmonic trems. I'm just using the Surf Trem by Carl Martin, and they very kindly sent me one. But if anyone knows of a harmonic trem, let me know, because I'd love to have one. Mary Ford was married to Henry Ford, and he was a Nazi. So, hey man, what can I say? Morris says Mary Ford. My bad. Yeah, this stream is flames. Nigel, you are the man. We needed you before you came, Nigel. It wasn't happening. Now you're here. You've set the place alight with your comments. Charlie, can you play "Oh Well" by Fleetwood Mac? Can I play? Yeah. Okay, I'll do that, and then I'll play you Little Wing, because I want to show you guys something with Little Wing, and I want you to go away and practice this. Yeah. So this is "Oh Well." Yeah. And so on and so forth. Right, okay, but it sounds a bit weird with the flat ones. So, Little Wing, okay? Sorry, let me start again, because that was total. That's it. It's all coming back now. Right, okay, so we all know that intro. Now the great thing about that tune, and this is what I want you guys to practice, is when you come to solo over those chords. My whole thing was, can I invoke the chord sequence? Can I play a solo with no backing, but you can hear the chords, okay? Because I hear a lot of people when you got this, when you're playing with another guitar player or another bass player, it's easy because you can literally go. You know, you can just play blues licks over the whole sequence, and it's going to sound beautiful because you've got that beautiful sequence in the background, you know. But if you're just playing solo on your own, can you invoke those chords? So I'm going to give you an example of this, yeah? I'm going to try and play a solo, and you've got to hear the chords in your head. So here we go. So, you know, that's what I'm saying that's how I practice, and that's my concept of playing music on any progression, any chord progression, whether it's, I Shot the Sheriff by Bob Marley, you know, or Message in a Bottle by The Police. Whatever song I'm playing, I'm always trying to invoke the chords and try and play off the chords. And it's quite it's a more interesting way. Because you get bored if you're just gonna play the same pattern. And then whatever the chords are doing, you're just still, in that kind of box. Then for me, you need to take it somewhere else. So, I mean, I've never done any lessons really on my channel, but if I did do some lessons, that's what I would teach. I would teach how to do that. That would be the thing I would teach. Right. So Nigel says, my head is rocking so hard and now love it. Okay, Nigel, you're the man. You're the man. Thank you, Charlie. Nigel says, any thoughts on Big Bojo? Somebody, when I had more hair, when my hair wasn't so thin and I'm losing my hair, but when I had lots of blonde hair, I was on a double-decker bus in London at night time, and somebody yelled out, "Hey, Boris Johnson!" This is when he was Mayor of London. And I was like, damn, do I look like Boris Johnson? Anyway, so maybe that's one advantage of my hair thinning, is now I no longer look like Boris Johnson. We're going to try and keep this politics free. We're going to try and, let's have a look. Right, I also didn't shoot the deputy. Oh, that's good to know that. Nigel, what about Crack a Bottle by Eminem? You know what, I'm not a fan of hip-hop, actually. I like the early hip-hop, but I don't like modern music. I hate modern music, mostly R&B, dance music, or they call it electronic dance music, EDM. I hate modern music because it's all derivative. It's all been done before. I don't hear anything new. I listen to modern music and it's like, well, that happened in the 80s. I mean, Kraftwerk, think about Kraftwerk with electronic music. They were much more inventive and creative and artistic than any electronic dance music out now. They're a joke. If you want a real sort of creativeness, go back to the late 70s, early 80s, and all the hip hop stuff, all that stuff was happening then. It was all happening then, electronic stuff. And it was more creative because technology wasn't so great. So people had to really, when you don't have, it's like the electric guitar, it's unrefined, there's problems, it's not, people have been trying to update it and make a modern version, but we keep going back to the 50s, And this is the same with the violin, look at violin, they've made electronic violins, but the most expensive violin is the Stradivarius, which was made I don't know how many hundreds of years ago. So, technology hasn't moved on with the violin really, because the most desirable violin is 200 years old, and it's the same with the guitars, the most desirable guitars are these things, Les Pauls and whatever, and they're very, they're now old, they're old instruments, but, so it's the same with, in kind of music technology with electronic music. I think, that limitation in the early 70s and 80s gave rise to some phenomenal music. And now with all Pro Tools, I use Pro Tools myself, all the plugins, all that stuff. It's so easy to make music. It's ridiculously easy. And you can make your own album on a laptop, but that comes at a price, where the creativeness lacks. And I know some people are going to say, yeah, but check out this artist. I just think overall, for me, I'd rather go back and listen to music in the past than what's happening now. But sometimes I hear something that's good, but, Anyway, here we go. Zane Dark Angel says, "Hey Ram, you hate hip hop. You can't be serious." I'm not going to tell you who Zane Dark Angel is. I know who she is. We have one lady on the channel. Right, here we go. Hiram Bullock was the first guitarist in David Letterman's Late Show band. He played that cool beat-up Strat with a humbucker in the middle position. I didn't know that. Made a Hiram Bullock signature model. Jay Trem, you're the man, because I loved Hiram Bullock. He's more people need to know about this guy. He unfortunately passed away, but he was great. Rocco, especially for you. I only know one song. Something like that. That's all I know. Do you use any modes, and if so, which one is your go-to mode that works in any environment? Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to tell you everything about that, so I'm not going to forget. Do you play Elvis Presley songs? I love Elvis Presley. He's the king. There'll only be one king, and that is Elvis Presley. Yes, I do play songs. I haven't got any arrangements at the moment, but yeah, there's actually one song I'm doing which I actually heard Blake Mills do. and I play in an early jazz guitar quartet duo, sorry, with my friend Johnny McCall, and we do a version of it, and it's an Lonnie Johnson, Something Tonight. Can't remember the name of the song, but it's Elvis Presley sang the song, but Lonnie Johnson kind of he wrote it or made it well known before Elvis did a version of it, I think. So I love Eddie Lang and Lonnie Johnson, really big fans, and I play in a duo, which we play all that early music, and I'm going to invite Johnny McCourt onto this channel to perform at some point with that. You kind of got a lot of the mix of sound. Oh, thank you, Rocco. Yeah, I love sort of gospel, you know, where I had the very good fortune of playing with a guy called Pee Wee Ellis, and he wrote a song called "The Chicken." So yeah, I really like funk and Stax. I like Stax more than Motown actually. Motown, I like some of the Motown stuff. I like Ronettes. I love them. Postman. Hey, Mr. Postman. That's a great tune. Yeah, Howdy Bam, Maurice, Danny Gatton. Man, I don't even go near Danny Gatton because that guy is beyond what I can do. He's on another planet. I'm scared. I've got too much to learn. Basic stuff. Danny Gatton had this incredible technique. He was really good, really good. I'm studying a guy called Ted Green at the moment. Ted Green. This book here is. I bought this book. I haven't really opened it yet, so don't worry, guys. I don't know what's going on. Ted Green, check him out. He has loads of YouTube clips. He has a website. If you want to get into jazz, he's the main man. He played a Telecaster, Oh no, this is a Strat, but he played a Telecaster. But he's someone you should really check out for chord voicings and playing with fingers, and really he's done lots of arrangements of famous jazz standards. Even if you're playing blues and rock, whatever style, you've got to get a bit of jazz, a bit of classical in your playing. You got to take it all in. A bit of country. Bit of reggae, I always think this collect grooves, so you want to collect grooves like, Stevie Wonder's great for grooves, So, collect groove, reggae. I love reggae, Dennis Brown. Listen to Dennis Brown. He does a great version of Black Magic Woman. Magic Woman. Reggae. It's much more interesting than the Latin Santana version. Check out Dennis Brown, Black Magic Woman. I do that sometimes live in my band. It's really, really cool. Ted Green is great. Yeah, Steve Cropper. Steve Cropper did. All that kind of. Because this is, I think the Stax sound is really country licks, like. That kind of. And then it became a standard thing in funk, sort of. Jacksons, and Steve Cropper, he brought those licks into Motown and Stax. He brought that into, so Curtis Mayfield, was playing these, and he was influenced by a country sort of, picker, Clarence White, yeah, Clarence White, who did the strap bender thing, he was a great player, yeah. Reggie Young, I don't know, Rocco, can you tell me more about Reggie Young? I don't know him. Green Onions, yeah. Something like that, that's great. Do you have a favourite genre of music that you like to play on guitar? No, I don't. I'll play anything. Sometimes I'll do this, I'll go, let me get some atmosphere. Is Zane Dark Angel, are you still... Zane Dark Angel is she's my female friend. I don't know if she's here on this live chat, but her country that she's from. I like playing with, like Andalusian, flamenco, Arabic, the Mackim scale. So I studied a lot of North African, West African stuff. West African music's more, you play with your thumb and your first finger. And then from the desert, in the Sahara Desert, it's similar technique, thumb and first finger, but it's more the sort of, got a little bit of Arabic sort of. And, sort of bluesy, sort of Saharan music, I like that, reggae, anything, Brazilian. I like a lot of the Brazilian Latin jazz. So jazz, rock, I like, you've got to play all the styles, like rock for me is a really important style to get in your playing, people like Gary Moore, if you want to listen to great string bending, I demonstrate some Gary Moore. A lot of people didn't realise, that his biggest fan was George Harrison. And he was good friends with George Harrison. George Harrison's favourite guitar player was Gary Moore, and one thing Gary Moore really teaches you is how to bend a string in tune, Too much reverb, I think. Let's try that. So that's kind of what I learned from Gary Moore and those players. So sometimes I meet jazz guitar players, especially a lot in London, and all they can play is jazz. They're amazing at jazz, but they can't play anything else, and they can't bend in tune. I know a lot of jazz guitarists that are useless at bending in tune. So, it's not good to get stuck into, the guitar, the nature of the guitar. It's not like a violin where you need to play one style of music all your life because you need the technique and you need 10,000 hours on one style and one technique and one style of playing. The guitar is kind of like a throwaway instrument in a way, and it's great for learning everything. It's great for learning lots and lots of different styles and then kind of putting that whole patchwork of styles together, and then that's your voice. But you want to be a bit unique, so learn some. I've never learned Japanese music or Asian music. That's something I haven't done. Indian music, I'm not so into Indian music. But I love Arabic music. I love West African music. African. I love all African music. I love Cuban music, Latin music, and I love rock and roll. I like really early rock and roll, like Richie Valens, Chuck Berry. I think that was the Stax. He's fantastic, and Sun Studios, Elvis. That kind of early rock and roll for me was the magic. The Beatles. And then putting it all together. Even Lemmy from Motorhead, who's the heaviest MF you're ever going to meet in the world. God rest his soul. He was into the Beatles. He was obsessed with the Beatles. So just because you're playing in your band, heavy thrash metal, doesn't mean to say that's what you're going to listen to at home or what's going to influence you. So just that's a thing to take into account. Hi, Devil's Shoes from Portugal. Great to meet you. Clarence White and Gene Parsons invented the B-bender. Yeah, they did. The strap that bent the note up. That was an amazing thing. Do you like music from 2017, Murder on the Orient Express? You know what? That's a great film. That's a fantastic film. So I'm going to maybe check that out later. Dennis says Alafakatori. Yeah, Alafakatori. Thank you, Dennis. Great to hear from you. Alafakatori was from Mali, from Bamako. He's one of my favourite guitar players. In fact, I'm having a guitar made from African woods. It's all made from African woods. And basically, it's a replica of Alafakatori's guitar, but I'll do a whole YouTube sort of guitar show video on that guitar soon, Are you playing in a group or combo now? Bullwhip Johnson asked. No, I have my own trio. So I play with other bands, I just play fill-in. I play with a Pakistani artist called amazing singer called Najma Akhtar. I play in a duo. We do called Danzin. We do early jazz guitar music, and then I play in sort of jazz and blues sort of every now as a guest, And I have a little residency in London once a month at the Ain't Nothing But Blues Club in Piccadilly, near Piccadilly Square. But I have my own trio, and we tour around Europe and hopefully America next year for sure. And that's myself, my twin brother, and we have a Senegalese drummer who plays djembe, calabash, African instrument, and he plays kit, And it's a laid back, it's kind of Raikuda-y, sort of blues, bit of world music, Raikuda blues, sort of rock, some Arabic rock as well. And it's a bit of a mishmash of styles. So that's my main recording sort of band. I don't have an album to show you. Yes, I do. One sec. So, with my trio, that's basically my album. With my trio, it's called Long Road to Tiznit, and I made this in Morocco with some Moroccan musicians. And so I have two albums. This one, which it's a Tiznit album, and the new one, which is much more sort of Cuban, sort of Raikuda, sort of slide guitar. So that's what I'm going to be touring. Thank you very much for asking. Thank you very much. Greetings from Poland. Waldek says my grandmother was Polish, so I'm 25% Polish. So hello, how are you? Palm Wine High Life. Yeah, I love the Palm Wine style guitar. That's a really a lot of the licks. I love that sort of styling. It's fantastic. I'm going to show you something as well, which I really like with the African thing. I have to show you that now. Okay, so Rocco says Reggie Young was a Memphis session guitarist that went to Nashville. Anyway, he did Elvis stuff, the Ghetto, C-Session Men in Memphis, but he played with the Highwaymen. He was one of the most recorded guitar players. All the Waylon Jennings stuff, Chris Christopherson. I love Chris Christopherson. Nelson and much more. Okay, I'm going to have to really check out Reggie Young. Sounds like a very, very cool player. Lemmy started out playing guitar with the Rockin' Vickers. Yeah, Morris. I actually play and know, and I'm going to play with a guy called Twink, who used to play in a band called Hawkwind. As far as I know, I think he played in Hawkwind with Lemmy. so I have a little bit of connection with Lemmy there. But I had played with Twink, and he played in the, I think it was called the Pink Fairies. Did he play in them? But I know he jammed with Hendrix. I put a photo on my Facebook last week with Twink and Hendrix jamming together. Nigel's back. He had to go to the lavatory. Lazy Guitarist says, what's your favourite lick to play? I know every guitarist has one. What's my favourite lick? I played it earlier. I'm going to play it again for you. Let me just for this. Okay. Need to go there. Peter Green, my favourite. You know, he was my first love, and he'll be my last. I love Peter Green's music. You know, sort of. Peter Green, man, that's for me. That's what, when I was 17, I picked up guitar. I discovered Peter Green and just learnt everything. I learned lots of. I've forgotten it all now, but you know, I just remember listening to on a cassette, because we had cassettes in those days, and you could record. You know, CDs had just come out, and I had this really cheap sort of it's called an Alba Sound Hi-Fi. They were really cheap, and you had 2 cassettes, and if you could record somehow, I don't know how I did it, but you could record one cassette with the other one. So I played Black Magic Woman chords, you know. I played the solo. That's what I, you know, first. So Peter Green licks are my favourite. Yeah, Nigel, great to meet you. Nigel says, Langia Fabrice, welcome to the party. Yeah, okay. Ramon, do you know Bill Frisell? I'm going to see him tonight. J Trem, Bill Frisell is incredible. Everybody listen to Bill Frisell, because he makes a guitar sound beautiful. He makes a guitar. If your wife or girlfriend or your boyfriend or husband hates guitar playing, then play him or her Bill Frisell, and they will like the guitar. Trust me. Okay. Where are we? Bullwhip Johnson says, I haven't tried to play out in years, not even an open mic night, without that pressure of an upcoming performance. I don't play or practice as much as I used to. Yeah, Bullwhip Johnson. What you got to do, because it's good to take a break. You know, I've taken a break. But maybe listen to some new styles. Try and learn some new style, or even a new instrument. You know, maybe put the guitar down and learn. You know, a saxophone or a piano. You know, that can help you bring inspiration back. But certainly a new style. You know, a style that you're not familiar with, but you like the sound of. You know, so. I'm going to show you another thing I really love to do with the African sort of music. Normally you have like that chord. Just like kind of C, F, C, G, 1, 4, 1, 5. So. that's another thing I like doing, is getting those 3 chords and then trying to pick out the note. So that's arpeggio, but you can extend it, and then you got your F, sorry, and then G. So I can't play today. So that's kind of coming back to, when I was talking about Little Wing earlier. I don't know if you saw this, guys, but what I try and, my concept of playing is playing the chords, playing over the chords. So if I got that chord there, and then I've got an F, but we're going to stay in the same scale. So if you say modal, we're going to be playing C. And then you've got G to C. So basically I've learned 5 patterns over the neck, and that's how I play. It's a really, really simple system. It looks complicated, but it's very simple. So if I did guitar lessons, that's what I would teach. I would teach these 5 sort of patterns, and the way you can shift those, find the arpeggios within their patterns. So you got that, and then you got F, come back to C, go to G. And if you use that system, you can use that on any song, and then you can get some nice melodies going, and you're playing melodically. So even if you've got like an A minor, and then you go to the next chord, and you want to go to this chord. And this is an altered, this is a funny chord, which you might know from Purple Haze, E7 sharp 9. You only need to know one more scale to play over that, to sound. But the scale and the chord go together, so it's not, trust me, it's not hard. Rocco says, why I mentioned reggae is because you play a lot of his style. Oh, right, great. But you play many styles from different players. That's what it's all about. Yeah, learn different styles, guys. Learn different styles. Langelia Fabrice says, yeah, interesting. Thanks for your welcome. Okay, so he's talking to Rocco. Dennis says, still waiting for my Rutters telly. Okay, let us know when you get that, man. J Trem, glad to hear your advice on Bill Frisell. The wife's going with me. Yeah, she's gonna love it. And also, Bill Frisell, he didn't. Ravi Shankar's daughter, can't remember her name. She had that massive album. But Bill Frisell played all the sort of guitar for her, So yeah, very good. Fabrice, I'm not a big Mark Knopfler fan. He is a good player, but his music is too mainstream. For me, I dug Dylan and still do, so no Knopfler for me, thanks. Fabrice, I respect you. I like people that have an opinion, and I love people that say, I hate this, or I like it, or I don't like it. It's better to, it's good to have an opinion, and it's good to know what you want to do, especially if you're a guitar player or musician. You need to be focused and do stuff that inspires you. And you're not going to like everyone. Like, I hate modern music. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't hear any, these modern R&B songs. I sometimes, you hear in your day, the media are pushing this crap on us all the time, so you're going to catch it. And it's like, man, what the hell is that, And it's kind of like you lose faith in mankind when you hear that rubbish. And you think, when I was growing up, when I was like 7, 6, 5 years old, my memories were the Police. The Police came out. That was the music I was listening to. I was listening to, great Andy Summers licks and solos, and can't remember how it goes, but Bring on the Night. Amazing bands. You had Phil Collins, whether you like him or not. He was certainly an amazing, incredible drummer, singer. What the kids nowadays got is just a load of rubbish. So I feel really sorry for young people. And some of my students, they'll say to me, "Oh, do you know this song?" And I'll say, "No, I don't. I'm not going to teach it to you because it's rubbish," you know. And that's a bit harsh on mine. You know, it's not very nice on my part, but I literally cannot listen to that music. It's just I would quit rather than have to teach this modern music. So I say to my students, check out Jimi Hendrix. You know, listen to Jimi Hendrix, or listen to The Cream, or Fleetwood Mac, you know, or the Rolling Stones, you know. And they listen to this stuff, or the Beatles, you know. A lot of people don't know who the Beatles are. And then they listen to it and they think, actually, that's really good. How come the media aren't showing us music like this? Because I'm sure there's young bands that are playing really cool stuff. Like, I think in America, you have really great bands. You have young bands like The Doors, DAWES, and you have a good scene. You have a really good live music scene. And we don't have that in England. We just have rubbish. You know, we just have like Europop, you know. And now we've got K-pop. You know, so we just have a really and we get the kind of real commercialized music from America. So whereas I think you Americans, still got this live music scene, maybe especially in LA, we got bands and stuff, and we just don't have that I don't see that in Great Britain. You know, I just see really bad music. Anyway, right, back to this. Enough about my rant about modern music. Morris says, talking about African Indian music, got to mention Led Zeppelin. Yes, so let's do this. So this is a tuning called Dagad. As the name suggests, it's D-A-D-G-A-D. And Jimmy Page actually got this tuning from somebody called Burt Youngst. You might have heard it. It's not actually Black Mountain Side. It's actually a song called "She Moves Through the Fair." My young heart said to me, that my father was you. I can't remember the words, but it's David Graham went to Morocco, a place where I've been to many times. And David Graham came back with this tuning, and it's kind of trying to get that sort of whole sitar sort of thing, you know, where you go, you know, and but he did a tune. Burt Youngst, I think, got it from David Graham, and then Jimmy Page got it from Burt Youngst. And the big scandal here in the UK was when Jimmy Page was invited onto the TV, and he was kind of interviewed and said, "This song he's now going to play is a song that he's come up with called Black Mountain Side." Yeah, Morris, yeah, he borrowed it. And the big scandal was that Jimmy Page could have had the opportunity on TV to say, well, I got it from Burt Youngst and David Graham. You know, I got it from David Graham, who went to Morocco, came back, you know, did this beautiful piece. You can Google it on YouTube. David Graham, She Moves Through the Fair. Guitar players, you need to watch that. You definitely need to watch that. I'm going to do a video on David Graham soon. But, Jimmy Page got a bit of flack, Jimmy did, for that scandal, for not mentioning David Graham. But anyway, Jimmy Page is he's a great guitar player. Fantastic guitar player. So he's excused in my book. Right, where are we? Anushka Shankar is the other daughter that plays sitar. All right, I'll have to check her out. I think I've seen her on YouTube. Okay, Sean says, totally Where's Sean says, where's Sean? Totally with you on modern music. I have no interest in modern music and haven't for many years. You know, I don't think there's much for us guitar players in modern music. And I know that a lot of people are going to say, you old bastard. But I don't care. I don't like it. So that's my view on it. Dagad always makes me think of Nick Drake. Yeah, Nick Drake. Pink Moon, amazing artist, very, very good. Signed by Island Records. Andy Summers was the guitarist with Eric Burden and the New Animals in the late 60s. Andy Summers, I always say this, I mean, I don't mean it literally, but I sometimes tell my friends, Andy Summers is the best guitarist in the world, you know. It winds up jazz guitarists. I love saying it. If I meet a jazz guitarist, like a full-on jazz nerd, I'll say to him, Andy Summers is the best guitarist in the world. And that really winds them up. And they go, what? So there you go. Andy Summers was with Zoot Money's big rock and roll band in the mid-60s. Yeah, he was with Zoot Money. He was a keyboard player, right? Yes, and Zoot Money was on Peter Green's last album before he kind of went AWOL. End of the Game. It was kind of like a jam. It was quite an interesting album with a leopard on the front, you know. Peter Green's last sort of album after he left Fleetwood Mac. Helped Bert with his sound setup, Belfast in the 70s. Lovely man. Yeah, I can imagine that, Dennis, because David Graham, who was a good friend of Bert, he basically, they were just guys playing small cafes. David Graham, you know, Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel did a version of Angie, which David Graham wrote. You know, so David Graham was he was a guitar player, and he was really well known, and he was a legend. But he was playing small little cafes. I think if he was alive now, he because of the internet, I think he would have got much more sort of notoriety. You know, John Martin, I know him well. John Martin, yeah, great guitar player, very amazing artist. I saw the Pixies live in Cardiff. I love the Pixies on Friday night. They were awesome, but are in their 50s. Where are the youngsters? You know what? The Pixies sound far more modern than 99% of the music I hear now. You know, the Pixies are, you know, I listen sometimes if I'm, you know, just on a train or something, I'll just put the Pixies on. Just amazing band, you know. Really, really cool. You know, they're just cool. You know, when I hear young bands, they're just cool. It's just naff. It's just like, you know, you don't get any characters really like Sid Vicious or, you know, the punk scenes and the Ramones and even Henry Rollins, you know, I don't know, I'm just saying this, but there just seemed to be more charisma, you know, in my time anyway. And in the 60s, obviously, you had Brian Jones, incredible, you know, charismatic, you know, musicians, you know. Paul Simon also borrowed, he borrowed a lot from, especially the Graceland, which I love. I love the Graceland album, you know, if you're into African music. It's fantastic. Thanks, Rocco. See you soon. The youngsters are on the internet. That's right. Maybe they need to get off the, you know, that's why we didn't have the internet, you know, when we were young. I think we had a better creativity because we didn't have the internet, you know. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, you know. I know what you're saying about modern music, Choka says, but that's mainstream. But that's the mainstream that died. So many niche genres and artists I would never have discovered on the internet, and it's more old stuff, or older stuff. Yeah, that's true. When I say I'm not talking about bands because there's some amazing music that's not famous, you know. But I'm talking about what the media is pushing out to the young people, the masses. You got to remember back 100 years ago, well before my time. There was, you know, people had pianos and people could read music. Most people could read music and play on the piano because you didn't have radios and stuff like that. So people would have to learn to read music. That, you know, Paul McCartney grew up playing, you know, show band songs on piano, you know, for his aunties to entertain themselves, drinking tea and scones, you know. So, you know, we don't have that. You know, we think we're really advanced now, but in actual fact, 150 years ago, you know, most people played the piano and could read music, you know, so it was where we've gained in technology, we've lost in some of the culture, in my opinion. Right, where are we now? I know what you're saying about me. Okay, we've read that one. Alan Jones says Joey Santiago was on fire. Such a unique guitar player. Tell me, yeah, Joey Santiago. I do not know the name. Tell me a little bit more about that. So I'm just going to do a little bit of show you one more thing on the guitar, guys, and then we're going to call it a day. So coming back to my concept of how to play melodic solos. When I come to play a blues, so say I'm playing a blues 1-4-5 chords. Now the beauty of the blues is that you can pretty much play one scale over the whole chord sequence. You can go. But then also what you can do is you can actually treat these chords as three different major scales. Okay, and so that's a really good thing if you can mix in the basic blues scale with your three major scales, because the way it works is this: in a chord scale, there's only one dominant chord or 1/7 chord. So major, minor, minor, major, dominant, minor, 1/7/5, back to your root. So there's only one dominant. So when you're playing a dominant chord, it's the fifth chord of a major scale. Okay, so you got three basically scales, and without I'll have to. This took me a long time to explain, but I'll just give you a little demonstration. If you can learn arpeggios. So that's really, I'm just doing that in one position. And you can stretch those scales out all over the neck. So one practice, if you want to know what I practice, it's normally that. I'll play that chord there. And so when I come to that chord, so when I come to the F, to this, back to your root. So that's really how I play the guitar. I'm thinking all the time in basically my major scale. So one thing I'm going to leave you guys on a video is learn your major scale. You know, that's one thing I would say. Guitar players don't learn their major scale. You know, we think we can get by without learning a major scale, and it's going to really set you back. So I can do some lessons if you guys are into it. I don't want to bore you, and loads of people are doing lessons on songs, but the one thing I can bring to guitar players is how I play the guitar, and to do it quickly and easily and painlessly. It's not hard. And if you're interested, let me know in the comments, and I can do a little course on how I sort of approach the guitar with these major scales, you know. I like the Strat. February says, normally I don't. Tellies look better, of course. Basic but good. I tried a Black Squire once and I was pleasantly surprised. Yes. Okay then, guys, that's it. Very Freddie King. Sorry, Mark says, check out Billy Strings. He's a young bluegrass flat picker. Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing players. I'm not talking. Again, I was mentioning the media, what they're pushing this awful commercial music, which I really hate. Aaron says the last Polyphians album has refreshed guitars. These guys are awesome. Okay, Aaron, thank you very much for that. I'm going to check them out. Who else have we got? Can you give a comment about sight reading? Yes, I can. Thanks to you. Great playing. Enjoyed very much. Thank you. My pleasure. Okay, sight reading. Let's if you want to know how to sight read, I can show you some basic stuff. Where are we? Okay, so I'll just show you this lastly before I go, because it's a great question. And I don't often get asked about sight reading. So let's do something very easy. In an easy key. Have we got anything in C major? Where are we? Okay, very, very quickly, I'm going to show you this. So, no, that's where's all of me? Does it have all of me? No, it doesn't. But okay, let's do this. Alice in Wonderland. So, I don't know if you're probably going to be back to front. I don't know if you can see this, but to sight read, I will pick C major. Just start in C major, and really, what you want to do is the way you read guitar. You read it an octave up than it's written. So that's a little bit of a complicated thing. Learn your A minor scale, and this is called fifth position. And really, it's the best shape to learn because you've got a C here, and you've got a C there. So if you're reading, from C, just below the stave, C to C on the, the second, in between the second lines. So you've got 2 octaves there. And that's what with sight reading, I would read, crotchets, very simple crotchets, in C, not too hard, and just, practice crotchets. And then there's a really good book actually, which, if I don't have, I'll show you the book next time. But it's the best book for sight reading actually. I don't have it with me, but it's got some great exercises in it. And just start with crotchets, start really simple. Try to learn melodies, because if you're just learning exercises, it's a bit boring. So if you learn a song that it's going to be a lot easier. But it's something you have to practice every day. I'm not particularly great at sight reading. I do sight read. I read music, but I don't sight read. So I can read a piece, but if you put me now in a music pit, said read that, I'd have problems, especially if it was in like A sharp or something. I'd really have problems. But in C major, it's not a problem. Right. No problem. Cheers, Ramon. Sean says, can't wait to finish work tonight and get home to play some guitar. Thank you, guys. Play some guitar. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of guitar playing, and just, try to play guitar, try to play some funk if you want to play rhythm. If you want to get great right hand, it's all about funk. If you can play funk music, then you're always going to have a great hand. So I'm going to finish on the chicken. Okay, guys, thanks very much for listening, and see you soon. Take care. All the best.